This is not why we're here. But reading from a book called Brazilian Nights means that you have to pay some attention
to the little
to the
Capoeira.
berimbau. You heard that, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
We got to pay some attention to the berimbau.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we've done.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's get on with the business at hand. Wow, put the berimbau down here.
Yeah, you might want to put your gourd down too further. The gourd, so it doesn't slip. Good.
It's not going to go anywhere without our permission. Stay there.
All right.
The book is called Brazilian Nights.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that we're beginning to read from chapter 6.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
You finished 4 or 5? 5 and a half. The last part of 5.
The last part of 5. So let me go to the last part of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Master Kim was everywhere. Last part of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Master Kim was everywhere. Foot should be here, not there. Rest periods during the 2-hour work hours lasted 10 seconds. She challenged every minute of the time she spent at the dojang. And when she hobbled through the streets to her hotel afterwards, her mind seethed with the passion and ice of Taekwondo. Valonga was surprised to discover she could hold her own with others in her belt group, white belts.
Mm-hmm.
They were mostly sub-teenage children, but they had a tradition of Taekwondo. She felt like an animal obeying the guttural sounds of her master's voice. Pow! Her sector of Korea was Taekwondo and painful joints. She felt out of sync with the rigidity of the art, the lack of a rhythm she could easily move with. She also felt disappointed to discover that the respect for tradition, bow! The will to work through any human obstacle was counterpointed by a racist attitude. Dark people are good.
Mm.
Sorry, y'all, but racism does exist in Korea.
Mm.
and a sexist attitude. Woman need guidance from man. The first month ended dramatically for her. She was accidentally kicked in the right side and had 2 ribs broken. No problem. Go sit down. We fix after class. Fix after class.
Okay, of course.
She seriously doubted whether her commitment to Taekwondo would last past the point of her ribs healing. She knelt on the sidelines. Master Kim insisted that she come to class even if she was unable to practice, shivering from the wind that blew through the open doors. Why don't they close those doors? She felt that she was learning something about the Korean mentality from watching her classmates work. They seemed to be willing to do anything the master asked them to do. She became a fascinated observer. The Korean language, except for commands to do this and that, eluded her grasp. But her understanding of what she saw was clear. Each member of the class was a well-oiled cog in the machinery. It seemed that they were all named Kim, Lee, Chang, or Han. And they gave the appearance of being members of a single family. Some of the family members struggled harder than others, but they all obeyed. They all obeyed. The realization stunned her one afternoon. The wind was colder and blowing harder now, but the doors remained open. The Korean autumn. The doors are closed in summer. The dojang became in some ways a metaphor for her Korean experience. In the summer when the doors were open, she imagined, there were fresh green scenes to look at, flowers to smell, a cool breeze blowing through. The doors would be open onto distractions. The sight of people rioting on television shocked her. The students in another part of the city were rioting because several members of the university had been killed by police. Police brutality, you dig it? Valonga looked for some sign, some recognition of what was occurring a few city miles away. There were no signs. It was business as usual in the dojang. Bow! The first day, she went back to class for practice as usual. She was required to do all of the movements that her classmates had been practicing while she was disabled. She felt that it was unfair and allowed her to show with an expression of disgust for half the class period. Master Kim asked her to stay after class. Valonga, I talk with you. Stay. She had learned how to supply the in-between words that linked questions together or made sense of statements that seemed to be strangely worded shorthand. He wanted her to stay after class so they could talk. You are not pleased, huh? He stared at the point between her eyes, and his question seemed to be more of a statement. She decided to risk everything by answering his statement question honestly. No, Master Kim, I'm not pleased. They knelt on the cold wooden floor of his sparsely furnished office, facing each other. He cocked his head to one side, as though asking her to tell him why she was not pleased. Valonga felt a slight panic wedging up in her throat. How can I tell him what I'm displeased about? About the damn doors to the dojang being left open? The brisk cold Korean wind breezing through? The racist attitude she felt and knew about from observation? Dark skin, not good. The sexism. Woman need man to guide her. Why doesn't someone say something about the riots? Should I say something? The respect for tradition that she felt that permeated across the frosty dojang prevented her from verbalizing her displeasure. It gripped her like a cold flash, this deep taekwondo, and then it was gone. Master Kim studied her expression, a sadly comical gleam, a twinkle in his eyes. There was no need to verbalize it. He had made her understand that Taekwondo was above and beyond ordinary happenings. There were riots, races, cool wind blowing through the open doors. Taekwondo was the beginning and the end. Master Kim made her understand that without saying a word. Valonga, you wish to speak? She nodded no and struggled to stand up. Her legs cramped from kneeling on the cold floor. Bow! He barked at her, but she most stiffly relieved. She turned to him to match his smile with one of her own and bowed. Bow was the linchpin for dojang courtesy. Younger students bowed to older students. Colored belts bowed to black belts. Everyone bowed to tradition. Preparation for yellow belt examination next week. Yes, she answered, and bowed again at the door. The doors to the dojang were closed, the space empty. It seemed light miles away from Capoeira. We're now at chapter 6.
Oh, okay.
Nothing like warm water.
Ah. Okay.
Valonga, you're not practicing Birimbao as much as you should. She made an effort to look petulant. You are simply playing the rhythm, you're not feeling it. Angola is the rhythm you must feel. Valonga felt like a real foreigner at the examination. Master Kim and 2 assistant instructors sat at the table at the far end of the dojang underneath the Korean flag. The doors to the dojang were closed, she noticed. The ranking black belt of her class called out in Korean, "Line up!" 20 students immediately took their places. Master Kim stood and slowly walked back and forth through their ranks, inspecting them. They wore the usual ivory white dobak that maintained an attention stance. He seemed to frown as he looked Valonga from head to toe. Why did he frown? Did he frown? Am I becoming paranoid? The rioting had escalated. The smell of tear gas drifted from the scene, and the television seemed to have it on every channel, but none of it mattered in the dojang. She alertly followed the preliminaries, the announcements, what this was going to be about, and raced to the sidelines to be seated cross-legged as the examination started. The examination was to determine whether or not the student would go to the next belt level. Master Kim was known, even by the Koreans, to be hard. She glanced to her left, mentally calculating the numbers. 5 were going to attempt to go from white belt to yellow. 5 from yellow to blue. 4 from blue to green. 2 from green to brown. 2 from brown to red, and 2 from red to black. There's nothing to worry about, she whispered to herself. Perform a few kata, do a few kicks, bow before and after each cycle. Spar with one of her classmates, or 2. She glanced again to her left. Everyone seemed to be so composed. Why am I so nervous? She almost exploded with a sigh of relief when she heard the name of the person next to her call first. Kim Jung-sok! Jung-sok Kim ran to a designated place in front of the master table and stood at attention. This was the first time she had paid any particular attention to the individuals in the dojang. They was kept in line, moving as a unit until someone goofed. There were periods when everybody seemed to be an anonymous series of white suited figures with different colored belts moving back and forth with brisk, snapping motions. Jung-sok Kim bowed, and as requested, began to go through the motion that would mean the difference from remaining a white belt and becoming a yellow belt. Valonga cringed when she saw the 12-year-old make her first mistake doing their assigned kata. Her armpits began to perspire, watching him stark and turn red with embarrassment because he couldn't remember the final movement of the kata. One of the assistants barked out an order in imitation Master Kim style, and Jung-suk Kim snapped back to attention. The aspiring student had obviously not done well in part 1. Part 2 was a demonstration of various kicks The real beauty of Taekwondo, she felt, were the kicking techniques. The katas, she had decided, were mechanical motions, 3 steps this way, punch, 4 steps that way, kick. The student started with a front snap kick. She could tell that his legs were not strong yet, but his technique was fine. He felt more confident after a few kicks and wound up part 2 with a spinning back kick. Hey. The other students sighed with relief. Jun Suk Kim hadn't failed his yellow belt exam yet. Freestyle sparring number 3. Beep bim bop. A yellow belted student scrambled to stand beside Jun Suk Kim. He had been chosen to be his sparring partner and a belt step higher. They turned away from each other to straighten the dough box and belts, turned back to face each other with uncertain bows, and grunted in unison to signal the opening of their sparring match. Valonga smiled at the sight of the 2 teenagers circling each other, their fists balled up, looking like small fighting cocks. A sudden mutual flurry of kicks killed her smile. They were seriously trying to kick each other in the rear of the chest. The head, she felt like screaming, "Hey, stop that, someone could get hurt."
That's the idea.
Somehow, all of their kicking seemed to be in vain, unfocused, harmless. The sparring match was called to a halt by a barked command. The 2 boys arranged themselves, bowed to each other, bowed to Master Kim, and stood at attention, breathing heavily. Chan Li! Bim Bop bowed quickly and returned to his position on the sidelines. His replacement, Chan Li, a blue belt, stood at attention, ready to spar with Jun Suk Kim, the aspiring yellow belt. Valonga subconsciously straightened her back, feeling the pressure she knew Jun Suk Kim must be feeling. He was obviously tired from sparring with someone slightly more advanced than himself, and now he was being asked to spar with a student who was even more sophisticated. The same ritual was performed, the straightening of the dobok, the mutual bowing, and the grunt that signaled the beginning of the match. The blue belt was slightly larger and took full advantage of his size. He opened their duel with a front snap kick to Jun Suk Kim's stomach. Jun Suk was kicked backwards like a man doing a muscular version of the Michael Jackson moonwalk. He picked himself up and re-entered the kicking zone 3, 4, 5 times.
Okay.
Each time he found himself within kicking range of Chan Li's front snap kick, he was kicked backwards and to the floor again.
Right.
Valonga skipped from feeling sorry for Jun Suk Kim to feeling a deep sense of admiration for his will to return to the zone of punishment.
Maybe didn't feel the same.
I think that's a good translation. The zone of punishment.
I hear you.
That's what Raymond used to do with me. Oh, you re-entered in the zone, man. Yeah, right.
You can't go home, so what then?
You can't go home. The match was called to a halt by another bark command. The 2 boys once again stood at attention in front of Master Kim's table. He issued a command for them to return to their positions along the side of the dojang. Valonga took a deep breath and sighed. Master Kim and his assistants compared notes, obviously agreeing on their opinion of Jun Suk Kim. Valonga! She heard her name as an echo and felt herself floating up from the edge of the mat in slow motion. No, Valonga, don't make your movement quickly. There's no time to do quick movements later. There's time to do quick movements later. Feel the energy of his movement, you understand? Black Belt Kang spoke to her. He had a reputation for speaking better English than Master Kim, which was completely undeserved.
Okay.
Tansen.
I understand. I understood until
You
you
understand what I'm
talked.
saying? You understand
Yes,
what I'm
I
saying?
understood until you talked. Yeah, right. Good.
I heard you, Master, my brother up
Yes,
here,
yes, Master Tom.
Master Tom.
Yeah.
The movements of the kata, the opening forearm defense, the first step in the riding horse stance, was mysteriously wiped from her mind for what seemed to be an hour. She refocused on the cynical look in Master Kim's eyes. She could literally hear the wheels in his brain wheel around. Another foreigner wanted to study her heart, a lazy black woman.
Mm. Mm.
She was into the middle of the kata before she fully realized it. It was all muscle memory. 3 steps forward, middle punch, right, left, kick, punch, right, left, kick, punch. She froze into the position or tension stance at the conclusion of her kata, feeling elated and slightly paranoid. What did I leave out? Did I do each movement correctly? Why is Master Kim staring at me like that? The next section, kicking. Master Kim continued staring at her. She felt uncomfortable, glanced down to discover that her belt had become untied.
Oh.
She remembered to bow, quickly turned around to retie her belt. Master Kim regarded her attention to neatness with a quick smile. Valonga, you are kicking. She bowed once again and thought of the 5 basic kicks she felt she was doing well until she stumbled. It wasn't a terrible mistake, simply a misstep that made her feel awkward and nervous. Each kick had to be done perfectly. She ended her kicking with a brisk front snap kick and came to attention slightly winded. Once again, Master Kim called out. The whole thing once again? Why? What did I do wrong? Valonga sucked in a deep shot of air, closed her eyes to visualize kicks in her mind, opened them and began to move. She felt locked into a pattern on rails. One kick leading to the next one, all interlocked. Her movements were quick, precise, and she didn't stumble. Once again, she finished and stood at attention. Master Kim leaned forward and granted her a smile. Wow, must be doing okay. Hoing Guk Joy. The sparring section. She dreaded it. Her sparring mate bowed with her to Master Kim, and then they bowed to each other. The guttural growl that exploded from her throat surprised her. She was circling her opponent cautiously, looking for an opening and trying to avoid being kicked or punched. She was fighting. Take one now. The kick she received to her rib cage surprised her more than it hurt, but she realized instantly something was broken again. She felt tempted to stop to hold her side and collapse, but a glance at Master Kim's smirking face acted as an encouragement for her to continue to bout. The pain in her side forced her to carefully consider every move, conserve her effort to think. She was surprised to discover weaknesses in her opponent's defense system. She was even more surprised to discover that she was outmaneuvering him. That despite the fact that she wasn't strong enough to deliver a killer kick, she felt that she was holding her own. It seemed that an hour had passed before Master Kim called the sparring to a halt. Stop! Voice, no words.
Okay.
Stop! Y'all.
Yeah. That would be much.
The opponents bowed to each other to Master Kim and raced back to half lotus themselves on the sideline. The pain in Valonga's rib cage is sharp with each breath, but she had completed her examination. Valonga felt her head wandering again back to the belt. The belt presentation ceremony took place 2 weeks after the examination trial. She felt sharp pains in her side with each bow, and there were many to be made. All right, Miss Prince, stay alive here. This is a writing class, not a siesta hour.
We're going on to the next event.
Brother Q, the most serious African-American writer on the scene. She was back in the States, learning how to best put her experiences into some kind of form. I am alive, Brother Q. And believe me, I know the difference between a writing class and the siesta hour. Brother Q flashed a tight little smile in her direction. Not only is she fine, but she got spunk too. Let's see what a short story is like. Valonga raked a ballpoint through the sentence he had just written. Truth is, damn it, stranger than any fucking fiction, but why not write the truth?
Ah. And
that's the end of chapter 6.
So
You see, she's
5B, that's after 5, which was 5B, and then chapter 6.
Yeah,
Okay.
the blend, you know what I'm trying to get at, too often, I think, my opinion, that they make such a deliberate halt to stop everything to go from this place to that place. That's not the way we live in our minds. You know, like right now, I'm thinking about, oh God, what a lovely evening I had last night.
Yes, it was.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
I'm thinking about, excuse me, I'm thinking about what an evening, what a lovely evening I had last night. So that transposes or metaphor, metamorphs into this sunshine is shining, you know, so it doesn't have to be do, ding, 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 do. It interweaves. Like right now, I'm thinking about 4 or 5 other things, you know.
I like your cap, by the way.
Excuse me?
I like your cap. It's a new cap.
Well, I'm thinking about this cap because it's on my head and it comes from the inimitable James Butler, one of my Tai Chi family members, who gave it to me one day. He said, "Oh, come on over to Chicago." Oh, okay. So I noticed you wear caps. Yeah. But try this on. And I said, "You giving this to me?" He said, "Why you think I tried to tell you to try it on?"
Okay.
He's like Alfred, but they're kind of
Snarky. Yes, snarky folks.
Hey, man, you know.
But full of heart. Full of heart.
Hey, as soon as the weather gets a little bit chilly, I'm going to put this bad boy on.
Nice.
Yeah, it's yours.
There you go.
So, Alfred, if you see James,
Or vice versa.
or vice versa,
Yes, indeed.
then, you know, one of the reasons why I'm wearing this cap is that it's time.
It's time. Well, I appreciate...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get off on you.
Well, I appreciate these moments in time with Brazilian Nights.
Brazilian Nights.
By Odie Hawkins, which can be purchased on iUniverse, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Just go to your bookstore and say, I want a copy of Brazilian Nights by Odie Hawkins. His website is www.odiehawkins.com.
As you can see, it's stuck to my heart.
It's a book that just got stuck to you. It just didn't want to leave you after you wrote it. That's what happened. I know.
Don't leave me, please.
It said you have read so many other books, and you haven't read me.
I'm going to finish you. Don't worry. It's going to take a couple of weeks, but I'm going to do it, okay? Okay, Brazilian Nights, okay? Oh, good.
Okay.
See that?
Yeah, okay. You became less stressed.
Let me see if my heart is still.
Yes, it's still there. You have a warm heart.
I don't know where you people are coming from. What station is this anyway?
This is
WQQQ.
This is Oz. Zola Salena-Hawkins.
Oh,
Oz.
God, I
Yes,
thought so.
yes,
Somebody said-
indeed.
You know what? The other day,
What's
somebody
that?
was saying, "Listen, I saw your YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and what's the deal with you people?" So what do you mean? So you seem to be reading a story. You interrupt the story to talk to your wife. Is that your wife?
Mm-hmm.
So, well, so far as I know.
Yes, I am.
And
I am.
occasionally she runs over and jumps on top of you and kisses you all in the mouth and stuff. And, you know, what is this, a porno thing? Or something?
No. It's moments
I
in
told her, I
time.
said, you know, when I started telling the general public about the fact that she was, well, this was during the summertime, when she was, you know.
Yum. So, next reading will be chapter 7, okay? And from these two senior
Trust me,
citizens
I won't tell
playing
you.
house, okay? And doing YouTubes. All right. I love you, my
But I know
husband.
this is America.
I
And
see.
anytime you suggest anything is sexy,
Oh,
it's
no.
gonna
Would
make
you
people feel
please?
funny.
Love first. Love
Yes,
first.
baby.
Gotcha.
Bye.
All right. Ciao, Odie.
Yeah.
Okay. Next time, soon?
Tomorrow, you know.
All right. I believe.